Meet Kratos, a powerful warrior of Olympus gods who just lost his job and the meaning of life, I guess. He jumps from the highest mountain in Greece, and a female voice narrates that after 10 years of suffering, death would be his escape from madness. 3 weeks before that, at the Aegean Sea, Kratos is still a god's champion, fighting on a wrecked ship with undead soldiers. He is sent by Poseidon on a mission to kill Hydra. After a brief encounter with one of the heads, he meets up a guy locked in the prison, but he says that he would rather die than be saved by Kratos, as he knows what he did in the past. This other guy is like, "You came too late, we have no chance to defeat Hydra." But Kratos is like, "Okay, hold my beer," and starts butchering the poor zombies. Then Poseidon shows up and gives Kratos special power of throwing a storm lightning strike. That helps to kill Hydra, one head by another, with a quite classy fatality finish style. When the job is done, Kratos goes inside the monster's stomach and saves a guy that was eaten earlier. At least that's what he thinks, because soon it turns out that Kratos just wanted his golden key, and when he gets it, he pushes the guy down the Hydra digestive system. The key opens the door to Captain's room where Kratos sees slaughtered women, which reminds him of his past. He has a flashback of killing a woman and burning down a village. Those kind of flashbacks haunt him often lately, and wine is not helping anymore. Kratos calls Athena and says that he has served faithfully for 10 years and he really has enough. Athena is like, "Okay, we have one final task for you. You need to go to Athens and stop Ares, who is destroying my city." Since Zeus forbade gods to fight against each other, Kratos is the only one who might be capable of stopping Ares. The goddess promises that if Kratos will complete the final task, his past will be forgiven. Kratos goes to Athens. Decades of the city are protected by 2 minotaurs, so Kratos gets a chance to stretch his legs a little after the journey. Then he has to defeat Cyclops, but turns out the gate is blocked, so he still has to find a way around. He meets Aphrodite. She gives him the power of freezing the enemies, but to earn it, he has to fight Medusa first. Actually, he needs to cut off her head, and with it, he can now turn enemies into stone sculptures for a limited amount of time. With the help of a giant crossbow, Kratos climbs into the city street, where an oracle of Athens shows half naked. Kratos reaches to grab her, but she is just a hologram. She tells Kratos that he needs to find her temple and she will show him how to kill Ares. On his way, he meets a woman who panics when she sees him and kills herself. That's another person being terrified by his reputation. Kratos also meets Zeus, who gives him a new power of throwing lightning. Then he finds Oracle, but she is captured by Herpes, so the warrior goes after them to save Oracle. He defeats a dozen of them supported by Medusa, and an old man wakes up from the grave. He is impressed by Kratos and says he is the one, and starts digging a grave, telling Kratos it's prepared for him. He also tells him that when all will appear to be lost, he will be there to help. Kratos is like, "Okay, thanks for nothing, but I need to go back to my quest." Herpes throws Oracle from the air, but she manages to capture a hanging rope. Luckily, Kratos finds a way to reach her. Oracle looks into his soul and sees that in the past Kratos was a captain of Spartan army. He was drunk with power, and his desire of conquest had no bounds. The only thing that was stopping him was his wife and daughter. Oracle is quite disappointed with what she has learned about Kratos, but she still reveals to him that the only thing that can defeat Ares is Pandora's box. It was hidden in a desert somewhere in the east. Kratos takes a road through the Severs and walks over the mountains, finally reaching the desert of the lost souls. There he meets Athena, who tells him that Oracle was right, and if he wants to find Pandora's box, he must search for the sirens and follow their song. They will guide him to Kronos, the last of Titans, who has been sent to the desert by Zeus, and he is the one that has the temple of Pandora chained to his back, because that's how big he actually is. Kratos follows the song of the sirens, and that leads him to the passage where he must kill 3 sirens to open the door. Inside he finds a giant horn that is used to create a road through the sandstorm, and leads him to another horn that he uses to wake up Kronos. Kratos jumps on his back and climbs in search of Pandora's box. At the entrance he meets this guard, or at least what's left of him. With a quite passive-aggressive attitude, he tells Kratos that no one ever was able to accomplish this quest, so soon he probably will be burned like the rest. Without giving a single F what the guard was talking about, Kratos carries on. He fights Cyclops and enters the temple. There he has to deal with so-called rings of Pandora, which basically means running around pulling down levers and turning stuff while trying to avoid deadly traps, until he reaches Artemis and gets a blade that is able to slay the Titan. He also finds Handle of Atlas. The handle moves the giant statue, so Kratos can now use this ladder to make it throw a giant stone ball and open the entrance to the altar. There Kratos finds the coffin where the son of the architect that built this Squid Games guy wet dream lays. Kratos rips off his head, and that opens a secret door to the underground tunnels that led him to a flashback from the past. Kratos reminds himself when he was a young Spartan captain leading the Spartan army and everything went smooth until he met barbarians from the east, numbered in thousands. Kratos' men were massacred and he faced the end of his career, so he decided to call Ares and give out his soul in return for help. Kratos will regret this decision for the rest of his life.
Ares! Destroy my enemies, and my life is yours!
Back to Pandora's rings. Kratos must complete the challenge of Poseidon. He fights Cerberus, a three-headed demon dog who breathes fire. Then he climbs up the hill and finds a room with a soldier alive but trapped in a hanging cage. He was really counting on Kratos setting him free, but you know, gods demand a sacrifice. That one opens the door of Poseidon's strand, and that's no coincidence because it's time for Kratos to put on ancient speedos and dive into the water. He swims up right into the challenge of Hades. Kratos makes blood sacrifices on his altars and fights a centaur boy band on the way. He goes through a maze filled with enemies and with the help of a giant statue opens the gates and a giant fireballs are unleashed. From here it's just a rope climbing, avoiding giant blades while walking hundreds feet above the ground and fighting a 20-foot tall Pandora's guardian. And finally, Kratos reaches the Pandora's box. Nah, it's just another coffin of an architect's son, since he had two sons obviously. Kratos of course rips off his head and has a word with Hades, who gives him powers of the souls of the dead. He goes all the way back to Pandora's rings and finally is able to release a giant statue that opens a small room where he finds... Nah, not the Pandora's box, but a lever that elevates him to the higher levels of the temple. There he meets Satyr. Even though Satyr has an ability to clone himself during the battle, he is no match for Kratos, who goes on a bridge where he spots an harpy. That's a warning from his master. Flashback to the battle against barbarians. Kratos was about to be defeated when he called Ares. Skies split apart and the god of war stepped through. Ares saved Kratos' ass, turning him into a perfect warrior, and in return, Kratos became his servant. His army was saved and the barbarians were destroyed. He was also chained by the Blades of Chaos, a weapon and a symbol of his slavery at the same time. Kratos gets the message, but he tells Harpy to tell Ares that he can go suck a lemon. Then Kratos enters Cliffs of Madness, a cruel maze filled with enemies and puzzles. He finds the necklace of Hera and Aphrodite and uses them to open the bridge between the cliffs. That brings another flashback. This one haunts him with the memories of the cruel murders he made in name of Ares. He and his army slaughtered men, women and children. But this one time, on a band camp, no, just kidding, this one time, when he was sent to burn down Temple of Athena, a village oracle showed up and warned Kratos that inside there's a great danger. That did not stop Kratos from killing all people inside the temple with a great rage. But when he looked at his two last victims, he saw a young woman and a little girl. And that was his breaking point, where he understood that he can't no longer serve Ares, and he must kill the god of war. Warrior finds a room with a skull chest and opens it. Athena shows up and informs him that he is the first mortal to reach Pandora's box. She tells him to bring the box to the city, kill Ares and save Athens. But back in Athens, Ares realizes that Kratos had succeeded in finding the box. He throws a sharp piece of stone column so hard that it travels all the way and hits Kratos straight in the chest. As he is dying slowly, he has another flashback of the night of the slaughter in Athena's temple. It is revealed that the two lost victims were his wife and child. And it turns out that Ares purposely made him to do it, because his family was the only thing holding him back from becoming even more cruel. Ares was hoping that now Kratos would become an even more deadly weapon, but instead he directed his anger towards the god of war. The old lady cursed Kratos and covers his skin with the ashes of his family for everyone to know what he did. And that's how the ghost of Sparta was born. Back in the present, Kratos is still dying and minions of Ares are taking the box. When he died, his soul was cast into the fires of Hades, and as he is falling down to the underground, he grabs a man hanging on the rock. He climbs back and fights his way through the paths of Hades. Finally, he reaches the top and someone drops him a rope. Turns out, it's the grave digger from before, remember? He looks happy and informs Kratos that he is just in time as the grave is finished. Kratos asks him who he is, but the old man is like, well, it's a long story, bro, and you get a job to do. So Kratos goes to the city and meets Oracle, who is bleeding to death. She tells him that it's too late, but that's nothing Kratos haven't heard before. So he just goes to Ares, who has his shouting to the air while standing on a cliff moment. When he spots Kratos, he's a little surprised, but Kratos did not come to have a chit-chat. He throws a lightning, grabs Pandora's box and opens it. It unleashed the power of the gods. And that made Kratos tall enough for him to have a proper face-to-face between the main event. So, the two touch gloves and the fight goes on. Kratos has advantage, but Ares starts to play with magic and kinda sucks him inside a portal. Kratos lands in front of the temple where he slaughtered his own family. Ares counts on breaking his spirit that way. Inside, he meets his wife and daughter. Suddenly, several Kratos alter egos appear and he has to kind of fight himself. But he manages to defeat them and save his family. Ares still tells Kratos that doesn't even count because he sacrificed them anyway when he agreed to serve them. But Kratos is like, killing them wasn't a part of the deal, jackass. That makes the god of war mad and he chains Kratos to the cliff and kills his family in front of him. Back in Athens, Kratos gets together and spots that a nearby bridge is a nice piece of a sword for a guy his size. And the second round begins. Ares gets his ass kicked and he softens, starting to explain that he was just trying to make Kratos a great warrior. Kratos is like, I guess you did. And bang, he stabs him in the neck. Ares dies.
Kratos had done me impossible. A mortal defeating a god.
Athena's like, good job, bro, but you didn't read the small print. What we promised was to forgive your sins, and we never said that we'll erase your memory, stupid. Disappointed Kratos climbs up the highest mountain in Greece and jumps into abyss. But soon, some force lifts him up from the sea and places him back on the mountain, where Athena waits and tells him that gods cannot just allow him to kill himself after a brilliant work he has done with Ares. And since they are currently hiring for a god of war position, he might be interested. Kratos goes to the Olympus and sits on the throne that belonged to Ares, becoming the new god of war. And that's how the game ends.
The mortal who had become the new god of war.